In 2021, I went ham and I read 111 books. And the reason I did this is because I wanted a new perspective change. I needed new wisdom. I looked at the world and I saw lockdowns, I saw a change in politics, I saw some weird things I didn't like, and I didn't like the direction in which the world was going. So I realized I needed new tools to deal with this changing world. I need to challenge some of the things that I was taught in school, some of the things I was taught growing up. I need to look at the world from a whole new paradigm. And I did. 2021 was the most life-changing year of my life. Business boomed, fitness improved drastically, relationship, every aspect of my life improved drastically because of this new knowledge that I gained. Now I want the same for you, but I don't want you to have to read all 111 books. It's tiring. Now, I've been a voracious reader for many years, but I can tell you right now, reading 111 books is tiring. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the top 15 books. Any one of these books, if you were to read them, could change your life. You're not going to find these books in your bookstore. They're not going to be on your typical top 10 list. So my name is Isaac, and I help people live and die well through first mastering their mind. Now, this list is in no order whatsoever. Every single one of these books is going to be beneficial for you. Number 1, Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. So this book deals with the scale of consciousness or scale of energy. The bottom level, the lowest you can get, is the level of shame, and the highest level is enlightenment. Someone who's in the state of shame might be suicidal. They might have had a abusive or traumatic childhood, and they might be living on the streets, addicted to drugs, feeling like the whole world is against them. Someone who's in the highest level of enlightenment might be one of a highly respected spiritual teachers. It could be Jesus, it could be the Buddha, it could be any one of these prophets that people talk about that had a lot of power. The higher you go up the level of energy, the more power you have to affect things in the world. The highest level, you end up having so much power where things start happening almost magically, like a lot of synchronous events happen and not too much effort needs to be done on your part to affect change. Think of these prophets we talked about and how they are remembered thousands of years later, how they're celebrated thousands of years later, and they're still affecting human destiny. And think of someone who's at the lowest level, sleeping on the corner of the street, and how they're going to be forgotten, how they have no effect on any other human, let alone themselves. So that's what the levels of energy is all about. The book is similar to Power versus Force, has a similar scale, but to me, it was a lot more accessible, a lot more relatable. So check that book out. It's going to be very beneficial for you. The second book is The Almanac of Naval, Ravikant. And this is a book you need to read if you're an entrepreneur and you want to increase your net worth, or if you're someone who just wants to understand about happiness. Naval Ravikant is a Silicon Valley entrepreneur. He's also an angel investor. He's made his money. He's made millions of dollars through his ventures, and he doesn't need to sell this book to make money. He doesn't need to sell your course to make money. He doesn't need your money. So what you're getting in this book is the distilled, crystallized wisdom, pieces of wisdom from Naval himself in terms of how you build net worth, how you gain leverage, the perspective in which he sees problems through, and also you get to see how he approaches the issue of happiness, how to be happy in the long term, how to view your life, how to have meaning, how to ensure that your life is fulfilling. The book is amazing. It's very short. You can read it in like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But if you really internalize the lessons in it, there is no reason you can't become a high net worth individual who's incredibly content and fulfilled with his life. Amazing book. Number 3, the DaoQing by Lao Tzu. Now, this is an ancient Chinese text that is, I believe, older than the Bible, and it's written in a series of verses that are very, very deep. It's not a book that you read from start to finish in one sitting and understand. It's a book that you're going to be pondering and looking at over the next 20, 30 years, and you still probably won't understand some of the verses. Now, I've read this book more than 20 times, the different verses, because I listened to an audio version of it. I just listen to it and ponder it. Now, it's going to give you a lot of deep insight about the Tao, which is the way. And It's basically this energy that is underneath everything in life. It's one of those books, it's really hard for me to describe exactly what it's about. You really just have to read it. Number 4, Outwitting the Devil. So this is a book by Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich. A lot of people love Think and Grow Rich. They believe it's his best work, but I actually like Outwitting the Devil even more. So this book was written in the 1920s, 1930s, but was not released until I believe 2008, because Napoleon Hill's family didn't want it getting out. It was too scandalous. It was too controversial. You see, Napoleon talks about how he had a conversation with the devil. Now, we're not sure if this conversation was real or fictional in his head, but what the devil basically tells him is that his whole ploy is to create a nation of drifters through focusing his energy on the main institutions, governments, schools, and religions. And drifters are basically people that live with no purpose, that have no conscious awareness of where they're going in life. They have no power. And I'm sure in 2020 and 2021, we saw that there are billions of drifters on planet Earth that can't actually think for themselves and need to be told what to do in order to flourish. So this book, if you want to understand human nature, if you want to understand why people fail in life and don't achieve the things they want to achieve, and you want to circumvent that and actually do well for yourself, you need to read Outwitting the Devil. Number 5 is Shoe Dog. Now, Shoe Dog is about the creation of the multi-billion-dollar empire Nike, and it's written from the perspective of Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, and it's a memoir, and it's a very amazing story. The good thing about Shoe Dog, the thing that I really like about it, is the fact that it shows you that anyone can do it. You know, Phil Knight is not exceptionally brilliant. He's not a super genius. You know, we tend to have these limiting beliefs about making money, that you need to be some kind of Elon Musk type character. He's just a normal guy. And you see through the story that the qualities that allow him to create this multi-billion-dollar empire are accessible to anyone. You know, just courage, seeing things from a different perspective, and just being able to go after it. So it's very inspiring. It's very entertaining. Lots of interesting stories that seem unbelievable, really, when you listen to them. I recommend that for anyone who has a business or is planning to start a business, regardless if you're selling pizzas or if you're trying to be the next Google. You need to read Shoe Dog. Number 6, Surely You're Joking, Mr. Fineman. So this book is written by Richard Fineman, who is a Nobel Award-winning physicist. Now, Richard Fineman is a very interesting character because he's a super genius, but he's also like a womanizer, is kind of like goofy and funny. The book is hilarious. There's so many interesting stories that he tells of his adventures, womanizing, hitting the bars, and also creating these physics breakthroughs. What I like about the book is that it talks about first principles thinking and the importance of understanding the fundamentals, the importance of having clear thinking, the importance of thinking for yourself. So not only is it really entertaining on one end, it's also very insightful for you to think differently to the next guy, right? You know, everybody thinks the same. You're getting the perspective of someone who is probably more intelligent than 99.9% of humans on planet Earth, or was more intelligent than them, and you get to take some of his mental models and how he sees the world. Number 7, Holotropic breathwork. Over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of talk of altered states of consciousness. You know, Tim Ferriss is really big on this. People have talked about LSD, they've talked about ayahuasca, DMT, magic mushrooms, or psilocybin. They've talked about all these different ways to basically reach these states that are not normal. What you might not have known is that you can reach these altered states of consciousness through your breath. You don't need drugs, you don't need anything external. Your breath alone, through a particular therapy called holotropic breathwork, can allow you to have these amazing visions and past life regressions. And this book is all about it. And it was created, the program, by one of the lead researchers in LSD therapy in the 1960s. When LSD became illegal, he needed a way to have similar effects with his clients, so he developed this breathwork. Now, breathwork's been around for thousands of years, but it's really becoming popular now as a tool for therapy. And in some ways, it's more beneficial than taking these trips in the jungle and doing ayahuasca and, you know, losing your mind. So check that book out if you're interested in altered states of consciousness. Number 8, No More Mr. Nice Guy. So this book is by Robert Glover, and it's all about the nice guy syndrome. So many guys out there struggle with girls and women. They struggle with making money and asserting themselves. They struggle in their careers because of the nice guy syndrome. This tendency to put others on a pedestal and to kind of just shit on themselves. Lower their value, to have low self-esteem. This book talks about the origins of the nice guy syndromes and how you can overcome them. It talks about therapy stuff, it talks about shame and trauma and how that actually leads to this particular personality trait that a lot of men have. This is very important work if you really want to be a dominant man who gets what he wants in life, who has a lot of success, who sets an intention and achieves it, who manifests anything that they want. You really need to eradicate the nice guy syndrome. And I know this is very powerful because I used to be a nice guy. When I read this book, it felt like Robert Glover had found my diary from way back and just read the journal entries, and he knew everything about me. So if you're a nice guy and you want to overcome that, this is the place to go. Number 9, The Wind is My Mother. And this is a book by Bearhart, who was a medicine man. He's a Native American, or was a Native American medicine man. And medicine people are kind of like shamans, but they deal with the natural resources of the world. They deal with natural healing modalities. They deal with chants and things that science basically will say doesn't exist, but yet for some magical reason seems to have worked for thousands of years. What I liked about this book is that it bridged two worlds. I grew up in Africa, and there's a lot of weird crap in Africa that doesn't make sense. Hearing about the esoteric stuff that happened in Bearhart's world, this Native American world, and how similar it was to the things I heard about in Africa was very eye-opening. It's very eye-opening because it opens you up to a reality that scientifically doesn't make any sense, but there's something compelling about the way he tells his story and the things that he did that just makes you wonder if there's more to life than what we have been taught. That's all I'm going to say about this book. There's so many golden nuggets in it. It really is amazing to see the perspective and to understand the culture of Native Americans from the perspective of one, not the history books, not what your teacher tells you. Very, very top 3 book actually on my list. I'll put down as the top 3. So check out The Wind is My Mother. Book number 10 is The Caballon. And this is a book written by the 3 initiates about Hermes Trismegistus. Typically, I don't read books on the occult because, you know, watching a lot of horror movies, that stuff kind of creeped me out. But, you know, in 2021, I just went ham and read everything, you know, from the Bible to the occult to anything I can get my hands on. And what this is about is the teachings of this figure in history on basically how to have more power in your life. This book is very interesting because I heard a lot of high-level people, especially in Hollywood and certain business circles, base their lives off the teachings of the Caballon. A lot of weird shit happens in the world that's based on the occult, and I want to take a look into that direction to see what exactly is going on here. And let me just say, it's pretty weird. It's a can of worms, and once you open it up, it can never be closed again. So that's an interesting book if you want to be open-minded and see what strange things are out there in the world. Check out the Caballon. It's one of those books where it's probably not going to make sense the first time you read it. I'm actually due to read it again this year, and the original one, the Hermes Corpus Hermetica, I believe, which is actually the original work. So I'm diving deep into a lot of weird shit this year. Book number 11 is called The Goal, and it's all about the theory of constraints. It's based it's kind of like a fiction book, but it's actually a textbook on the theory of constraints. So it's fiction in terms of the story, where this main character who works in a manufacturing power plant, and he needs to make the manufacturing plant profitable in 3 months, otherwise he's going to get fired. And he is in cahoots with this physics teacher who talks to him back and forth about different ways of managing the plant to make it a lot more effective in order to hit the goal. This book is really good for business owners, for people that want to understand a little bit about systems thinking, that might have a team of people and delays keep happening. They keep finding bottlenecks in their business. Things are not going according to plan and they want to become a lot more efficient. This book is good for basically any business, whether you are a YouTuber and you've got a team of script writers and video editors, or you are someone who owns an engineering firm and your engineers keep handing in the drafts late and you're trying to figure out why exactly do things not go according to plan. It's likely because of the theory of constraints. The best thing about this book is it's not mathematical, it's just very intuitive. As you read it, you will understand what's important and what to focus on your business to allow for maximum efficiency. So check that out. It probably is not going to be beneficial for you if you're not a business owner or not a project manager. The next book is Journeys Out of Body, and this is a book about astral projection. Now, you might think that that's a load of shit, the idea that someone can project outside of their body and travel around in the astral realms. Look, I've never done it, but there is some compelling evidence or people that have researched this area and it just might be true. So this book is by Robert Monroe, who is the founder of the Monroe Institute. The interesting thing about this is, unlike a lot of other woo-woo books that talk about the astral realms, the Akashic records, this book is written by a respected businessman. So someone who was respected in his community, who had a very successful business. He was a millionaire already, and he started projecting out of his body, having these out-of-body experiences and traveling around. And he wanted to scientifically prove that this was true, so he ran some experiments and created a whole institute just to research this. And of course, this is information that is not known in the mainstream, but out-of-body experiences have been documented for thousands of years in every single civilization of humans. Typically, people have out-of-body experiences when they are under severe trauma, so something traumatic happens, or they have a near-death experience where a car hits them and they project out over their body and can see things from a different vantage point, things that were later confirmed when they return to the body that they could have never possibly seen unless they actually got out of their body. There's a lot of stories like this. So if you're interested in that insane world of out-of-body travel, astral projection, this is a very, very interesting and eye-opening book. So check that one out. Book number 13 is The Bitcoin Standard. And this book is all about money. It talks about the fiat fake money that we are all currently using today. It talks about different forms of money that have been used throughout history. And it also, of course, talks about Bitcoin. So it's a really good book on economics that tells you the difference between sound money and unsound money, why everybody is going crazy over Bitcoin, why governments printing a shit ton of money every single year is a terrible idea, why inflation is horrible and is robbing you of money. If you don't know anything about these economic terms or microeconomics, this is a good book to start. It's very easy to understand. It explains very logically why the world you're living in might seem a bit crazy, how people really have no understanding of money and where that's leading. It's a really good book. Check it out. And I believe he's got a new book now too called The Fiat Standard or something like that. So check out The Bitcoin Standard. I really learned a lot about economics and money from this book. Book 14 is Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self. You see, I've always been interested in the subconscious mind and lucid dreaming. And if you don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's basically when you're dreaming and you wake up inside your dream. A weird thing happens where the dream world is just as real as this world. So you touch a pillow like this and it would feel just as real as the real thing. But the difference is you're basically a god and you can do whatever you want. You can fly, you can conjure things, you can ask yourself questions. So I believe lucid dreaming is the gateway to the subconscious mind. And this book has been the most detailed and it's just been the most in-depth approach to lucid dreaming that I've ever seen. I've read lots of books on lucid dreaming, but it basically talks about a lot of the studies. It talks about the psychology. It talks about different theories. It has also case studies. It's a really good book if you're interested in lucid dreaming, or if you're interested in the deeper aspects of your mind. Perhaps if you are into normal stuff, this might not be the best book for you, or if you've never had a lucid dream, this is quite an advanced book for lucid dreamers. So check that one out. And the last book is Healing the Shame That Binds You by John Bradshaw. And this is all about shame. Now, you might have seen people commit heinous crimes, whether that's a school shooter or someone who like basically murders someone with a hammer or something insane that you just can't wrap your head around. A lot of the time, that's because of shame. Or you might have seen someone who keeps entering the same repetitive pattern in their life. You know, the woman that keeps getting with the guy that's wrong for her, the guy who abuses her, the guy who treats her like shit, but she keeps going out for these relationships. A lot of times that's because of shame. Or someone who keeps self-sabotaging themselves whenever they have an opportunity to do something really amazing in their career. They do something stupid and get fired. That's because of shame. So John Bradshaw goes into detail more than any other book I've seen on the topic about what shame is and how to overcome it. He gives a lot of practical techniques, and everybody in the world has some degree of shame. It's just about learning to manage it or learning to remove it, and where you're at in terms of the levels of shame. Because if you have a lot of shame, especially toxic shame, it's going to be incredibly detrimental to your life. You're going to repeat the same negative patterns over and over again. It's an amazing book. I recommend you check it out. Anyway guys, so those are top 15 books that I read in 2021. Read any one of those books and I guarantee you're gonna have some serious perspective changes. Do this and I promise you'll be one step closer to living and dying well. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell notifications so we can see more of each other. Until next time.